Okay. You know, I think very differently about mentality, mental skills, mindset than a lot of other folks in the hunting industry. And so rather than do some hustle and flow, hard ass kind of montage to talk about it, figured let's sit at the dining room table and have a conversation and have a little something warm to drink here in the evening after a walk with my dog. Now, there's a lot that folks get right. Other folks in the hunting industry get right about mental toughness, psychological flexibility, all different kinds of things. And sometimes you have no choice but to grind it out. It's part of the deal. It happens in life, happens when we're hunting, happens in a lot of different scenarios. The problem is the hyper focus on being tough, grinding it out, all of those kind of things walks people into a lot of bad situations. But there are other things that it takes from us. And one of those is the ability to just keep your head up and look around. And I think that's one of the main reasons that we're out there, right? Is to take it all in, to be in the mountains, to be wherever it is that we're hunting, heck, to even just be outside walking with your dog, and to pause and take it all in no matter what's going on. And to do that, we have to be able to create some space between what we're feeling, what we're experiencing, and how we manage it and how we behave based on everything that we have going on. And that's why we don't focus on being tough, mental toughness all the time. We focus more on something called acceptance. And that's accepting what's going on, how you feel, whether good or bad, and then being able to make decisions regardless of how you feel. And what that does is, first of all, it keeps you safer because it allows you to step back, take stock, and make better decisions. One of the stories that I often say, or the allegories, whatever, is like, you know, if you're so focused on being tough and toughness is your highest value, and you have this mountain in front of you, and you're just gonna be tough and you're gonna grind it out and you're gonna get up that goddamn mountain. And you do it and you put your head down and you trudge and you get there and then you get to the top of the mountain and you're like, well, it's the wrong goddamn mountain. So being tough didn't serve you very well in that situation. Sure, it got you to the top of the mountain, it got you to do something hard, but maybe it put you in a worse situation. Maybe you're farther from the critters that you want to hunt, or maybe you just wore yourself out. And I think that that's one of the big things that people don't think about, is that all of that strain that you put on yourself, just trying to be tough, anything that you're fighting against, the resistance costs more energy. And endurance is all about saving as much energy as possible. It's about being efficient. And we do that with our training when it comes to developing relative strength, developing aerobic capacity, all of those kind of things. And we have to think about our mind the same way. We have to set our mindset so that we save energy. We're not fighting. We're not creating more resistance than we need to. Because when we do that, not only do we often climb the wrong mountains, but we just wear ourselves down way faster than we should. And I'll give you a story, you know, and this isn't even from an extreme example. It's from an antelope hunt. I was in Wyoming in 2019 and, messed up some stalks on these different bucks and just got so hyper focused on being able to kill a buck before we left. And we had days left. It was like day 2 of the hunt. And I just got so hyper focused, so obsessed with killing a buck that I stopped enjoying myself. And I honestly started making my buddies have a bad time. Until one of them said something to me and I was like, you know what, you're right, I need to snap out of this. And, just an example of, I'm not perfect. This is all stuff that I've had to work on over the years. But being able to stop in that moment and ask yourself, well, why am I allowing myself to feel this way is one big thing. But also what's causing it. Is there something that I need to change? And do I have to fuse with this thought pattern or these feelings that I'm having? Are they helpful? Are they helpful now? Are they going to be helpful in the future? And we work on something called ACT in our mental skills program as part of Backcountry Ready. And ACT stands for Acceptance and Commitment Training. You accept what's going on, you commit to behaving based on your values, and then you go forward. And so in that moment, I could accept how I was feeling, that I was frustrated about not killing a buck yet, about making mistakes, about whatever it was that was driving me nuts at that moment. And then taking a step back and saying, well, those are just my thoughts. I don't have to behave based on them. And then committing to a value based on my personal values, my hunting values, and then moving forward. So a better case would be accepting that I'm frustrated, accepting that I'm making mistakes, and that it's okay to have them, not trying to force them out, not trying to force the feelings away, but committing to what I value most, which is enjoying my time outside, enjoying the time with my buddies, and eventually having success. Now I ended up, once I got out of my own goddamn head, I ended up killing a nice buck on that trip. But I had a way worse time, I wasted energy, and I put strain on my hunting buddies by me being a little bit of an asshole because I was so hyper-focused on what I was doing. And that was an ancillary, adjacent kind of trying to be tough. I was trying to be too good of a hunter. Worried about being too good of a hunter, and it's just right beside how folks worry about, being tough all the time. And it just walks you into a lot of shitty mindsets, shitty behaviors, and it's just really not helpful. And so I want to offer you a few different things to think about rather than worried about being tough. And there's a couple other mindsets that mess people up when it comes to hunting and longevity, and I want to talk to you about those too. So instead of being tough, I think it would be better for you to focus on, for all of us to focus on, what can I do to keep my head up? What can I do to keep myself present and enjoy this situation while doing what has to be done? That's way more enjoyable than just hyper-focusing on what it means to be tough based on these really poorly defined definitions of toughness from people that you don't even know. And then on top of that, how do I accept what's ever going on around me and then make decisions that are move me forward, move whoever's around me forward, regardless of the situation? I want you to kind of think about that, right? And think about how you might make that more of a value to you than really hyper-focusing on being tough. Because I think what you'll find is that it's actually much easier to do the things that you're doing with far less resistance than if you're hyper-focused on being tough. We did an exercise, I think it was this past week in Backcountry Ready, it was part of mental skills, something called drop the rope. And when you drop the rope, it means that you let go of whatever you're fighting. So one of the things that we don't realize is when you're straining hard for during an exercise, or when you're conditioning or hiking up a mountain, we start to create tension in other parts of our body that exacerbates it, that makes it worse. We start shrugging our shoulders, we start clenching our jaw, we start clenching our fists. And part of dropping the rope was finding that tension in your body, releasing it, but maintaining the same level of effort, and realizing that you can still put out effort without having to force it, without having to make it some big ball of resistance in your body. And it actually makes you tougher. That's the funny thing, is it actually makes you able to handle more. It makes you more resilient because you're not straining against yourself all the time. So, I want you to think about, how do I keep my head up? How can I drop the rope more often? Both of those things are going to be hugely beneficial to you. But there's something else, and I talked about it in an article recently in the Pack Mule Journal, about 2 mindset things that really mess people up when it comes to their hunting longevity. And one of those things is acting like you're old way too soon. I mean, I'm 39, I'm about to be 40, but I mean, since I was in my early 30s, I would hear guys talking about, oh, they feel old, they're acting old, oh, we're getting old. And, yeah, absolutely. Age comes. We all age, we all start to lose abilities, and we all die. It's part of the deal. But the thing about that is if you start putting yourself in the mindset that you're old, you start feeling old, you start moving old, you start acting old, and then all of a sudden you're way older, you're acting way older than you are chronologically. And that actually takes abilities from you, because you won't train in the same way, you won't eat in the same way, you won't take on challenges in the same way, you won't move through the world in the same way. And you start to limit yourself from a longevity standpoint just because, well, I'm old, I feel this way now, there's nothing I can do about it. You start losing opportunities and you start to have a way harder time with your longevity. And the other thing is just the ego stuff, man. And it really butts up against all of the mental toughness stuff that we were talking about. Ego gets in the way. People start thinking they should be able to do something, just be able to do it. And then they can't, and then it totally backfires on them. So for example, let's say there's this brutal workout, you signed up for some kind of training program, and there's this brutal workout that just kicks your ass. And you feel like, oh, I should be able to do that. And your ego keeps telling you to push harder because you feel this sense of lack. There's this gap between what you think you should be able to do and what you're actually able to produce. And your ego tries to fill in that gap with either harder effort, or it does something way worse. It makes you quit, because it tries to protect you from the feeling that you're just not up to par. You're just not good enough to do it. And one of the things that we really need to do is drop the ego and go slow. If you drop your ego, focus on what actually is going to move you forward. Sometimes it's a lot of really easy work. Sometimes it's just being more mindful. Sometimes it's accepting your schedule. Sometimes it's just doing what you can with what you have. But you have to drop your ego for that. Now, I'll give you an example, and it's not necessarily with hunting, but I was at a commercial gym earlier today. And I saw this dude put like 225 on the Smith machine to overhead press. He went in, he put like the adjustable bench in, had it stand up. And he was doing like 4-inch reps with it. Now, that was just to pad his ego to say that he had 225 on the bar. He wasn't really getting anything out of that. And it's a really good metaphor for a lot of the mentality that people keep when it comes to training, especially for hunting, is they let the ego just kind of own them. And they focus on either the minutia or doing these things that show them the bigger gap between where they are and where they want to be. And it stops them from doing the little things that will actually close the gap for them. So dropping your ego and going slow, especially when it comes to conditioning, is going to be one of the biggest things that not only helps your mindset now, but keeps you in the game later, because you will do the little things now that will keep you in the game. So what I really want you to walk away from this video with is stop worrying about being tough. Think about how you're going to keep your head up. How are you going to accept the situation that you're in? Commit to acting well in that situation to move yourself forward, to be more successful, to not let your emotions, your feelings, how your body feels overtake you so that you make worse decisions, or you overvalue something that's not going to serve you. And if you're one of those people that's like in their early 30s, or even I'm about to be 40, in their early 40s, and you start telling yourself you're old, I want you to, first of all, just stop telling yourself that you're old. Because if you keep telling yourself you're old, you're going to act old, and you're going to start taking things and putting limitations on yourself far before you need to. And forget about the ego, man. No one's watching. No one is in the auditorium watching you. It's just you. No one cares. So the best thing that you can do is show up each time you train, when you hunt, whatever it is, and do the right thing for you right now that's going to move you forward. And typically, that is dropping your ego and going slow.